Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Next Door NetAdmin. So, this week, I was working on my Proxmox server. I did a bunch of updates because the updates needed to be done, quite honestly. But then, what I noticed was this wonderful little link right up here at the top that says, support for Proxmox VE 8 ends at the end of August. And I thought to myself, well, what's this about? So I opened it up, and yeah, what do you know? Proxmox VE 8 has an end of life of August 2026, and Debian 12 has the end of life of July, which just ended at the time of this recording. So I went, okay, obviously I'm going to have to upgrade to Proxmox 9, because that's what you do. But I've never done this before. I only just started running Proxmox in the last year or two, so I haven't had to do a major version upgrade yet. In fact, I started with Proxmox with version 8.2. And so I went through the upgrade process, figured it out. I'm now running Proxmox 9, so I thought, what better time to actually demonstrate this to everybody else watching my channel, because now I've just done it. So we're going to go through it together. I have set up an example Proxmox server because mine's already done now. I'm going to go through the process again. I installed this one originally with Proxmox 8.2. So most of the steps that I had to go through on my system, we should be able to replicate here. The other thing that I'll note is that this has two hard drives. The virtual machine running this Proxmox has two hard drives. They are in ZFS mirror, so RAID 1, same as mine is. And the only other thing I'll note is that the repositories for this Proxmox example server, I've done the same thing as I did with my server at home, which is the enterprise Ceph and enterprise Proxmox repositories are disabled, and I've enabled the no subscription repositories instead, because in my home lab, I'm not paying for an enterprise license. It's a home lab. So the no subscription repositories did not come pre-enabled in Proxmox 8.2. I had to add those manually. I'm not going to demonstrate that today, but I'm just letting you know how the system was set up so that as we go forward, you understand why you are or are not seeing various things. So let's start with the FAQ here. There's actually a link right here, upgrade from Proxmox VE 8 to 9. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And when we go there, you look at the table of contents and you go, ooh, that's a lot of stuff to keep in mind for this, right? It's not as intimidating as it looks, honestly. New installation, we're not going to do that because you can upgrade it via a new installation, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do an in-place upgrade. Cool. So the prerequisites. Upgraded to the latest version of Proxmox VE 8.4. Yes, while I installed this with 8.2 to provide a better match to what I went through on my home lab, this has been upgraded to 8.4.19. I've done all of the updates available so that I made sure that everything on this server is as up to date as it can be. There's no updates available. Great. So we're on the latest version of 8.4. I do have the correct package repository configuration. Yes. If the manager isn't at least 8.4.1, but it is, so that really shouldn't be an issue. Hyperconverged Ceph, I'm not using anything with Ceph. I don't have that. The repositories are there, but I haven't installed anything that didn't come with a plain Jane install. So it is what it is. I have not put in a Proxmox specific backup server. Reliable access to the node, okay. If only SSH is available, they recommend testing the upgrade on an identical but non-production machine first. I don't know about you guys. I don't necessarily have identical servers in my home lab, so I don't do that. And as a wrinkle, I went, oh yeah, my server definitely does have an iDRAC. It's a used Dell, so I should have IPMI access. I don't. It's old enough that the Java viewer just does not want to work on my machine anymore, and I get no video. Or rather, even though the server is turned on, the viewer doesn't think it's turned on. I don't know why. So I did not have IPMI access either. I did do it completely through SSH. I did not have any problems. Hopefully you will not have any problems either. But I'm just going to go ahead and do this through SSH so that we can demonstrate the whole thing. Healthy cluster. This isn't even in a cluster, so we're good. I don't have any virtual machines on this, but obviously it's a good thing to have backups of everything that is important. So that's a good thing to have. And yeah, we've got free disk space, and then just check known upgrade issues. We'll get to that in a minute. And then we've got a wonderful step-by-step. Very usefully, they have a checklist script, which is the first thing that we're going to do. Move important virtual machines and containers. If you only have one host, you can't move them anywhere. So I did not move mine anywhere, but I did shut down all of the non-essential virtual machines. A couple of the essential ones, like a DNS server and my main router, those I can't shut down, because if I shut those down, I can't get any upgrades. So I had to leave those running. But anything that was non-essential, I did shut down, just to make sure that the board was as clear as I could make it before continuing with the upgrade. Then we're going to update repositories. Okay. And actually, I saw this wonderful little link for package repositories. And so I looked at that. We'll come back to this in a minute when we go to update the repositories, because some of these commands, they'll work, but I wanted to do it completely with exactly what the standard defaults are, because if it's default, it'll better match the documentation that I look up later, because I don't remember what I did. And then you do the upgrade. Okay, cool. And they even note that here are some common configuration files with changes and the recommended choices for what you're doing. Okay, cool. We'll take a look at this as we go. And then for clusters, for after the upgrade for clusters, again, we're not in a cluster. I'm not going to worry about it. And optional, modernizing the repository sources. We're actually going to be doing this because I want to replace the package repositories manually anyway. So this will already be done. Cool. So then known upgrade issues. General, okay, there's upgrade specific issues for Trixie. I didn't have any that I needed to worry about. The upgrade might want to remove this package. That's fine. Kernel audit messages. I did not have an issue with these kernel audit messages, so I'm not going to bother with that, but there it is. Don't have any third-party plugins. This is older hardware, but it's still compatible with the Linux kernel 7, which is what's being installed. I'm not using LVM in UEFI mode. I am in UEFI mode, but I have root on ZFS, so it is not affected by this particular issue. The systemd boot meta package, blah, 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 blah. This is specifically if the checklist script suggests it, then systemd boot is safe to remove unless you manually installed it and are using it as a bootloader. I haven't manually installed it. Again, I've just done a plain Jane install from 8.2 and then upgraded it to 8.4. So if the checklist script suggests it, then it will be safe to remove. Okay, cool. VM live migration, network, LVM thin pool. None of this other stuff is things that affected me. So I'm kind of brushing over it. But there's, a few things to look through. But look at that. We're already through the bulk of the page. So that huge list of table of contents that looked so intimidating, it's easy. It's relatively easy. I've kind of brushed over most of it, but let's actually get started with going through the process itself. The first thing is this checklist script, PVE 8 to 9. And it does say here that you can run it with all checks enabled. I don't know why I'd run it with less than full checks. So, okay, fine. PVE 8 to 9, double dash full. All right. So if I'm here in my SSH prompt, PVE 8 to 9, double dash full. With 2 L's. There we go. Let's see what it tells me. Whoa, check that out. All right, our summary at the bottom, there's a warning and there's a failure. Okay, well, what exactly did it do? What did it look at? So it's noticing all packages are up to date. We're at the right version, 8.4 plus. Great. We're running a kernel that's suitable for the upgrade. We're in a standalone node. We're not in a cluster. We're not running Ceph. Great. Storage is good. Virtual guests are good because I don't have any here, though my guests were equally passable. And then miscellaneous checks, checking that various services are in active state, checking that NTP is working, yada, yada, yada. And then we have this wonderful thing here, systemd boot meta package installed. Remove systemd boot. And this is exactly the same thing. The link that it gives you actually takes you directly to this known issue about systemd boot meta package and should be uninstalled. So the checklist script has suggested that we remove it, and it is safe to remove it because we did not manually install anything. So with that being in mind, we will manually remove systemd boot. Okay, cool. We also see here that the matching CPU microcode package, Intel microcode, could not be found. Okay, that's a warning. I will install that myself afterwards, but ensure you enable the non-free firmware component in the apt sources. There's not really a point to enabling it and trying to install from an old source and then upgrade it. So I'm going to do the upgrade first and then install this afterward. So that's a note that goes into the noggin for later. Useful to note, when I was doing my upgrade, this line here, checking for IPAM DB files that have not yet been migrated. I did have a legacy IPAM DB, interestingly enough, but it said, here's the file. It is safe to remove if all of the nodes in your cluster are at least 8.4. I don't have a cluster, and my system was 8.4, so I just deleted that file when it told me what it was, and great, it wasn't even a warning, it was an informational notice, but deleting it was just fine. So really the only thing that this checklist wants us to do is get rid of this systemd boot meta package. So I'll do that. I'll just do apt remove systemd dash boot. Yep, and we're just going to get rid of that. Once that's done, we will rerun the checklist script, and we should only have this warning about a CPU microcode package. There we are. So now if I run my checklist again, and I'm just going to continue using -- full for the whole time because I want to run all the checks. Great, we have no more failures. We have the warning about the microcode, but everything else is good. All right. So what's the next thing in this list? Well, I need to scroll back up to the actual change here. It's updating the repositories because I don't have any virtual machines that I need to move. So updating these repositories. We've already verified that we're on 8.4. We've verified that we've got all of the latest 8.4 packages, so I'm just going to move past that. But updating the Debian base repositories to Trixie. Rather than updating these files in place from Bookworm to Trixie, I actually came over here to the package repositories page, and I looked at the Debian base repositories. It tells you the file that it's supposed to be in and gives you the exact output for the file. And remember that you need to enable non-free firmware for your Intel microcode package? That's here in these default base repository files for Proxmox 9. But it wasn't in 8. So again, by putting this off until after we're done the upgrade to 9, I'll already have the right repositories enabled. So here's the file that it's going to go into. All right. There we are. I'm going to just use nano because why not? There we are. And then I can copy this and shove it on in. There we go. Just like that. Then save it. Good. What else did we have in the repositories? Because those are the Debian ones. Well, now I need the Proxmox repositories themselves. And if we look at this, you can see that we're already picking up the new file from Debian sources for Trixie. We're not there yet. And you can also see detected mixed suites before upgrade. Yes. So but we're not there yet. Am I using Enterprise? No. Should I put the repository in? Probably yes. If I chose to license it later, I would want the repository available. And I'll just have it disabled, same as I did before. So this is going to be in PVE-enterprise sources. I'm just going to copy the contents, and then I will change this to PVE-enterprise.sources. Drop that in. Save it. Hey, there we go. And then the no subscription repository is under proxmox.sources. Okay. So let's put this in now as proxmox.sources. There we are. And then there's a test repository. I don't want the test repository. And to make sure that I don't... If I want to enable Enterprise later, then it's useful to have the repository file there so I can just enable it. It's going to be safe to use because I can't use it until I have a license anyway. Test, on the other hand, if I'm ever going to use test, I want to be really, really, really sure that this is what I want to do. And so to prevent any accidental enabling of that repository, I'm not even going to put it in. If I decide later that I want to use test, then it's worth the manual effort to go back in and then create the test repository by adding this stanza to the proxmox.sources file. So I'm going to leave that part out. And then the Ceph repositories. Again, I'm not using Ceph right now, but it has packages that were in the system, and so I'm going to keep it in the system just in case I need to. So, all right. Oops. Let's make sure I get the full stanza here. And these are all going into ceph.sources. So let's give this a go. All right. Ceph.sources. Cool. Here's the first stanza. But I definitely want the no subscription repository because that's what I'm primarily going to want to use. All right. And again, I'm going to leave test out because I don't want test in there. Not unless I'm really, really sure. So we'll do that. Exit that. That should be all of my sources necessary. So if I reload my apt repositories, I now have sources.list. The .list are the old files, and then .sources are the new files. What I'm actually going to do is disable all of my Bookworm repositories because I don't need them anymore. I'm also going to disable the Bookworm Ceph because I don't need that. I will disable Ceph Tentacle for Enterprise. I'm leaving no subscription. I want my Debian sources. That's fine. Trixie for PVE no subscription is fine. Trixie for PVE Enterprise, I will disable. There we go. And then Bookworm PVE no subscription, I'll disable that as well. Now, once I do that, it tells me there's no Proxmox repository enabled. You don't get any updates. We do, but we get updates for Proxmox 9, not Proxmox 8. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to do the full upgrade through SSH to Trixie, PVE no subscription for Proxmox and for Ceph, and with the Debian upgrades for Trixie as well. And we have the Enterprise disabled and the Enterprise disabled. Cool. Rather than Bookworm updates, and Bookworm security from Debian, we've got Trixie and Trixie updates, and then Trixie security from a separate domain name. All right. So that should be everything that we need to do here. And now it's just a matter of, hey, apt update. Get all your list of updates. Cool. And the reason that we're doing this big upgrade through SSH or through the console, rather than using, for example, the upgrade here, you could do the upgrade through here, but it would fail halfway through. Because when you do upgrade traditionally through the web console, it's going to launch a little shell window in a browser. That's great. But the software you're upgrading includes that shell window. And if the shell closes, then your upgrade is going to fail. The same is true with SSH. If, you're connected via SSH and you decide to, close the window, your upgrade's going to stop halfway through. And that's a bad thing. That's why they are recommending that you use console or, IPMI. Again, I did not have that available to me, so I did it through SSH and went, oh, I'm just going to, make sure I know what I'm doing as much as possible. So having updated that, that's right here, apt update to refresh the package index after updating all the sources. And then we're just going to do apt dist upgrade. And I kept this section handy so that I could see if any of these configuration file changes popped up as was warned. So I'm probably not going to leave this running in real time. I'll pop in and out to show you things as they happen, but here we go. That is a lot of changes, isn't it? If you're doing an upgrade, here's packages that will be removed because they're outdated now. Here's packages that will be installed, and then there's a whole bunch of packages that will be upgraded. I don't know how long it's going to take me in this virtual machine. On my system with spinning media disks, it took about an hour. So settle in and here we go. But for you, this is going to be a lot faster than it is for me. All right. Looks like I've finished fetching all of the packages, 751 of them. And then it's going to go through the actual installation. There will probably be at least one, maybe two prompts for configuration files that need to be changed, at least if my experience upgrading my actual home lab was any indicator. And I'll... Let's start with apt list changes. This is actually something that apt does, is lists all major changes. I'm actually going to skip through this because I went through and read it all when I was upgrading my server, and I know that there's nothing significant there. But feel free to use your arrow keys to scroll up and down and read through it if there's something that you'd like to figure out or something that you want to read or review, because I certainly did when it was my server that was going through the upgrade. But having gone through it all, I know that there's nothing here that I need to be worried about. Certainly not in example VM. So I'm just going to press Q to finish it. Bang, and off we go. Let's see. Okay, keyboard, starting right off the bat. Yes, I'm just continuing with the US keyboard. There we go. Here's the first file that we saw. etc issue. And that is the very first one here. Proxmox auto-generates the file on boot, and it only has cosmetic effects, so using the no to keep your currently installed version is safe here. Great, let's do that. No, keep your currently installed version. Ta-da! All right, configuring this. Do you want to restart services during package upgrades? It's not going to hurt anything if you do. Proxmox suggests that you don't, if only because you have to reboot the system afterwards anyway, in which case, you know, you're going to have everything restarted anyway. So I'm just going to say no in this case to keep the process moving. All right. So these need to be, all right, sure, fine. I'm just going to keep it at default and hit OK. There we go. And we're just going to keep things going. It's worth noting on my upgrade, on my home lab, I did say yes to restart all services without asking, just because that's what I've always done, and so that was more force of habit than anything else. But Proxmox says you really shouldn't need to do that because you're going to be rebooting it at the end anyway. All right, so now we have another configuration file that has changed, etc lvm lvm.conf. Let's see what else is here. Funny enough, it's the second one here. Changes relevant for Proxmox VE will be updated. A newer config version might be useful. Okay. If you did not make extra changes yourself and are unsure, choose yes. I haven't made any changes to this. None whatsoever. So, out of curiosity, if you want to see what the changes are, you can use D to show the difference between the versions. Most of these are changes in comments. Changes in comments only. And that's not something that you really need to worry about. Turns out, the only non-comment change is this part right at the bottom. Devices, added by PVE Manager. And I can tell you from having gone through this process already that when you say no or yes, install the package maintainer version, and you lose the devices section, PVE Manager will actually restore that section once the upgrade is complete. So you don't even need to worry about losing devices or anything like that. It is perfectly safe to just say yes, install the package maintainers version, so long as you haven't made any manual changes of your own. And I haven't, so easy peasy. And then we've got configuration file, PVE Enterprise sources. Okay, we already put that in. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And really the only difference between these is that I've disabled the PVE Enterprise repository. That's the only difference. I don't need to actually change that. So I'm just going to keep my currently installed version. Cool. And there's where it's added the devices back to etc lvm lvm.conf. So, like I said, that's all taken care of. All right. And just like that, we're done. Amazing how fast it is when you don't have to sit and watch the whole thing, isn't it? So then check the result and reboot into updated kernel. If it exited successfully, which it did, you can recheck the checker script and reboot the system. Okay. So if that's what I can do, then let's redo our checker script, see what it says. All right. So the only failure is unable to determine installed Intel microcode version, because it's not installed yet. That's why. I'm going to reboot to fully activate the new system before I go and install it. But otherwise, yeah, everything else should be pretty good. The warnings, there's one there. No active time synchronization daemon, probably because the package has been reinstalled or upgraded, but not restarted yet. So that's the likeliest cause there. And the other warning is, okay, so a suitable kernel 7.0 is installed, but an unsuitable kernel is booted, missing reboot. Yes, we're missing a reboot. So the checker script looks pretty good. Let's just go ahead and reboot the system. Like so. The reboot, given it's a virtual machine, will probably not take a long period of time. And in fact, we'll probably see when it has come back. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just refresh it later and we'll find out that way. Okay, so that did not take too long. It's worth noting that there's a lot of packages that need to be upgraded and replaced on boot, so it's normal for that to take a little bit of time. But now I'm back logged in. It is on the 7.0 kernel. And hey, that all looks okay. There's nothing that's interesting, right? Because I'm busy looking at things and it still says 8.4. Yes, you need to do a Control F5 to force refresh the system. And then you see that it's actually now in 9.2. Fabulous. That's exactly what we want. If we go to repositories, hey, we don't have that issue where it says you don't have any Proxmox repos enabled. Yes. But we've still got these old suites here. So we have a little bit of cleanup to do. We don't need this list file. We don't need any of the .list files. We just want to keep the .sources files. So we're going to go in and remove them one by one. That is apt sources.list. And then we're going to remove everything that is a .list in sources.list.d. So then when that's done and I reload this, okay, we've got Ceph sources, enterprise disabled, no subscription enabled. We have Debian sources, Proxmox sources, no subscription enabled, and enterprise disabled. And everything's exactly the way that it should be. Great. When you go and refresh your updates, okay, you can do that, but there's nothing here, which is exactly as it should be because we just upgraded to the latest version of everything. There's one last thing to do, and that's that Intel microcode package. Okay, so let's do apt install Intel microcode. Obviously, if you're running an AMD processor, use AMD-microcode instead. The script will probably tell you that if that's the case, but yeah, install the correct package for your processor. But then once you do that, you should be all good to go, pretty much. For me, all of my virtual machines booted up exactly the way they should have, and that was all I needed to do to upgrade from Proxmox 8 to 9. So hopefully this has been useful for you guys. And give you a little bit of confidence in going through this process yourself. If you have thoughts on other things that you would like to hear me talk about or things that you would like to see me demonstrate, feel free to let me know right down there in the comments section. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I am your next door netadmin, and go to the summary screen. There it is, nice and happy. We will see you next time.